What is up, everybody? Clint Lamb with Cover Crimson here to react to Alabama's 20-9 final score win over LSU. Got to be honest, it's going to be a minute as far as collecting myself, figuring out what direction we're going to try to take this show. For the people that don't want me to say anything negative and it upsets you for whatever reason, it was a win. Give them credit for figuring out, once again, a way to win the game. But for anybody that doesn't want anything negative, because I typically feel like I do a pretty good job of, we'll point out the good, we'll point out the bad. But if you don't want anything negative said, you just want to celebrate, I totally get it. This is probably not going to be the post-game show for you, though. Maybe you come back later. Maybe I'm in a better headspace tomorrow night when we go live. Can go back and look at the tape and find a bunch more things I like. And but this is not. I just am going to be honest based off of what I saw. And that's good. That's a lot of good, but it's a lot of bad too. And it's things that eventually are going to get Alabama beat. You can't just sit here and do this each and every week and expect to be able to close and do what you need to do against the elite teams. I understand they did it against Georgia and they did it in Athens against Georgia, but you can't keep doing this because eventually it's going to bite you. It did not bite them today, but I mean, they are winning football games and they won. What was the line? I think the line was 10.5, if I'm not mistaken, or at least that's the last time I checked. So the fact that an 11-point win, they didn't just win, they covered. Give them credit for that. But there was some bad guys. So we're going to be talking about it. If you want to get to the front of the line as far as the super chats or as far as comments, I try to address as many comments as I can, but you're guaranteed to get to the front of the line. If you send a super chat, I will address it as soon as I see it, or try to as soon as I get done with my thought. But this should be, it's going to be a fun show. We're all going to vent some frustration. I hope people, if you've got concerns and stuff, certainly share it in the chat. I want to be able to read it, and I think we should all be honest about the conversation. But there's a lot of good too, and I do want to talk about that as well. But let's go ahead and get into some of it right here out the gate. Cody Stevens, appreciate the super chat. Defense is winning us games. Offense in the second half might screw us later on. Cody, I think in a lot of ways you're spot on, man. And granted, the offense continues to have moments, but this is not the product that you signed up for under Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. I mean, let's just be honest. I think Ty Simpson, the last couple of games, he's felt a little bit off. It's understandable to a degree, because the protection, sometimes it's breaking down around him, but just this confidence that he was oozing with early in the season, and I say early, post-Florida State, I mean, he has that in moments, but it just seems like that when because he's going to make mistakes. I mean, he's human, but it just doesn't, I don't feel like he's responding as well when there's adversity, personal adversity, where maybe he does something that he's frustrated with. He's not handling that as well as he was early in the season. Just move on. I mean, I understand that you're frustrated with yourself in the moment. I mean, I like to hold myself accountable as well, but you play the next play. If you throw a 80-yard touchdown pass, or you go out there and you throw a pick six, either way, all you can do at that point is learn and move on. And sometimes, I feel like overall he's done a very good job of that this year. It has not done as good of a job the last couple of weeks. And I think that's kind of been his problem, just a little bit off. I mean, a lot of these throws, like he's seeing it. I think some of these things he's seeing just a tick late compared to what he was seeing, or the pictures that he was being presented early in the season. But at the same time, he's seeing the right things in a lot of these instances. So I do want to give him credit for that. Let's see. We'll get some of these comments. Appreciate you being here. S. Walker, that was painful to sit through offensively. Painful. Not having a running game pisses me off to no end. And granted, that give people credit. I mean, because and we all kind of knew to an extent that they were right. But at this point in the season, you would hope post-bye week they're going to try to make some changes. Maybe there was this newfound commitment to it, or the commitment has been there, but there was this emphasis on improving the ground game. And despite them doing everything they possibly can to get it going, they can't get it going. And it's becoming very frustrating. And a lot of people, yes, I think Jam Miller is it's not timid. I think he tries to be patient to allow his blocks to set up. But it just, I mean, right now with the way things are going, the blocks aren't getting set up. So you need to be at the line of scrimmage with momentum by the time, I mean, within a split second of getting that handoff, you need to be getting north, south. And I mean, that's dictated based off of what plays you're calling, like all this plays apart. But it's just right now, I mean, the run game is extremely frustrating to watch because when you look, and I was starting to go through it, and I'll go through it obviously before tomorrow night's live, and I'll have all the numbers for you guys. But I mean, I guess I could go ahead and pull up what I do have. It was still pretty early in it, but second and 8, second and 10, second and 12, second and 8. The lack of first down success and constantly having to climb out of that hole. This offense, it has been able to do that for the most part. Like it's been pretty effective, but when Ty is not playing Superman football like he was early in the season, these second and long situations constantly, or a huge majority of the time, it's not where you want to live. And so that's been frustrating, but it's the run game. And I mean, some of it is on the running backs. A lot of it, it's the offensive line. Just it's the same concerns that we have had about it post bye week, and we're sitting here still having the same conversation. It's extremely frustrating to watch, but at the same time, there was some good in there. Ty had some really good throws at times. I mean, he's still putting NFL stuff on tape. It feels like that as the game starts to get a little bit away from him, he makes just one or two mistakes right now. He's letting it get in his head, and it's like, hey, pull the Tua 2017, where it's like it didn't matter what that cat did. He was going out there fearless. I can go on this football field and I can do whatever I want to. I don't care if I just threw an interception. Doesn't matter. Took an unnecessary sack. What did he do after taking a sack on first down in overtime against Georgia? National championship game, true freshman. He didn't let that stop him. I mean, there's nothing. I know I just took a sack. It was like the one thing I couldn't do other than turn the football over. But guess what? I'm capable of pulling anything off on this football field that I want to pull off. And he goes out there and delivers a game-winning strike, walk-off, legendary play, one of the best plays in Alabama football history. I'm not saying beat Tua Tagovailoa, but I am saying that's the way it's got to be. You're going to make mistakes. As well as he has played for a huge chunk of this season, he's still, 9 starts in to his starting career at Alabama. So he's still green. He's still growing and learning, and he's just got to be a little bit more okay with that. Move past stuff, because I think some of this, it's like it's one mistake and it's compounding into multiple mistakes. And I say mistakes. Some of it is like an actual mistake. Others is just you're slightly off. You're in your head a little bit. You're frustrated with yourself, and you just got to go out there and just let it fly. I mean, because you've got the ability. Let your instincts take over. I think he's trying to force it too much, and I think part of trying to force it too much is the fact that the run game is non-existent. So in a lot of ways, he feels like he has to go out there and do it all himself. And so that's what they really need, is to have somebody get out there and give this man, some complementary elements to this offense. That's Ryan Grubb's job. That's the offensive line's job. If you can create some holes or give Ty plenty of time, it's the receivers and the running backs and the tight ends, everybody catching balls. The running backs had a couple of drops tonight. It's like it's everybody coming together. But, this offense is still oozing with potential, but potential means very little when you're falling short of it. And a lot of people criticized, during the bye week talk, Jimmy was saying, that he felt like Alabama was not going to touch 30 in a lot of these games, and fans were frustrated, but that's what this offense has been. So, I mean, anyways, all right. So, Adam, we got the super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Never in my life been less excited for a Bama win. When Ty underthrew Lottie and then overthrew Germ on back-to-back plays, it broke me. I mean, it's still a win. It's just a very frustrating win, and it's frustrating for everybody. I mean, even the people that really don't want to live in the negative. I mean, you can easily look at this game and say there's a lot that was frustrating to watch. And for whatever reason, they're really struggling to just put teams away. Like, you're in position and there's opportunities littered throughout these games. You have figured out a way to win all of them. That is awesome. But there have also been so many opportunities that were outside of the grabbing the victory It was, let's put this away. Let's end this team right here. And they just don't have that killer instinct right now. And as long as they don't, that is going to continue to be a concern as we work our way through the rest of this season and, potentially SEC championship and playoff. Like, all of that can't get ahead of ourselves there. You still got Oklahoma, you still got Auburn, but, at some point you're going to pay for the fact that you're not putting these teams away when they're giving you every opportunity to. It is frustrating to watch. Let's see. Ralph, appreciate you run the ball. Yeah, and it's not really a lack of a commitment to it. I mean, I understand 26, carries, 4 of those being from Ty Simpson. You got 1 from Bernard, you got 1 from Brooks, and you got 1 from Cuevas as well. So Daniel Hill had 7, Jam Miller had 8. Can you blame Ryan Grubb for once again abandoning the run though? Because I got to be honest, a lot of times I'm like, I get frustrated if you do abandon the run because I understand the importance of it. The play action is not going to be as effective, and it hasn't been as effective. That I think is throwing Ty off a little bit. But when you are watching this offense, you can't blame Ryan Grubb for wanting to get away from the run game because it's completely ineffective. And every once in a while, you'll get a 5-yard pop or a 7-yard pop, but you're not getting anything explosive. Like Alabama's defense, like LSU, they've been a poor rushing offense. They're trying to stay committed to it just like Alabama is. They rip off at least one big one. It's like, okay, hey, that kind of put us in a position to put points on the board. Alabama's defense did a really good job of limiting LSU in the red zone and holding them to field goals. We're definitely going to be talking about that. But like that one run sets you up to score points. Alabama's run game right now is not setting them up to score points at all. And that is a massive problem because you don't need it to be dominant. You don't need it to be like, you don't need it to be top 25 or top 30. Just be serviceable. 50, 55, 55th in the country, like something like that would help tremendously. And then you get the vertical passing game as well. That's certainly playing a part. I mean, you saw it. I mean, they hit one, they're capable. And I love the usage for Lottie. Lottie was on the receiving end of that one. They targeted him on at least one other one that I can remember downfield. And we're going to be talking about him because I thought he did some really good things in this football game. And I love his usage and how that's continuing to increase. But it's just, guys, I mean, I don't really, at this point, the run game, I don't know what more we can expect from it at this point. I know that they want to get it fixed, and I do think that the limitations with the rushing attack, eventually it's going to end up getting Alabama beat, but they might just have to try to figure out a way to work around it. But this just the stuff that they're trying to do to work around it hadn't been as effective lately either. So you're starting to play better teams. Appreciate the super chat from Jones. I'd love to see Carroll get some reps inside of guard. I feel like we're missing an opportunity to help the run game out, playing him only at tackle. He did play quite a bit, definitely in the first half, but then second half as well. I would love to see the snap counts on that front. But let's see. At the same time, though, when you're talking about if you're going to stay committed to Wilkenform, be at right tackle, at least for the most part, and it seems that, I mean, this whole platoon thing has been going on all season. I mean, you're in game 9. You're 3/4 of the way through this year. If they're not going to eventually make that switch to Michael Carroll, and it just doesn't seem to be currently trending in that direction, maybe you do try him out at guard. I thought Will Sanders did some good things tonight. I also think that there was a couple of reps that I'm sure he'd like to have back. But and he's potentially a solution. But at the same time, I do agree that Michael Carroll was a dog. I think him, from a, getting your quarterback killed with edge speed, that is something that I think they're worried about with him right now, at least to an extent. And it's not that he didn't have the athletic ability. It's that he's having, mental lapses or missed assignments that's kind of affecting things. Maybe putting him inside could improve the run game. Maybe it would help him in some ways, but at the same time, he's a true freshman who's dealing with some mental struggles. Just getting the overall picture. And, at this point, 9 games in, do you switch his position and expect him to essentially learn a position that he played it in high school and he played it some at Alabama, in the spring and stuff. But right now he's been playing pretty much right tackle the entire season. So would they switch and put that on his plate? I don't know. Probably not. So that's at least something to keep in mind. Michael Coleman, sometimes you need to make a quarterback change just to settle the team down. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't think that Ty is to a point where you have to pull that trigger, because once that trigger gets pulled, I understand that sometimes, like, Sark doing it with Arch last year, or I mean, obviously people wanted to do it with Jalen Milroe. There's a lot of different ways that can go. Now, I will say early in the season, after the Florida State game, in which people like me were sitting up here saying, Ty was not a solution, but he also wasn't like the problem. He was a problem amongst many problems, and he actually played pretty decently. The coaching staff, I mean, they were kind of giving some of his reps in practice after that game to some of the other guys, and I think that sent a message to him, and he started playing really, really good football. So maybe that is the message you have to send again. Do you do that publicly in the middle of a game, or do you do that in practice where you're starting to get some of these other guys more reps? I mean, Ty's a lot more established now. That was first career start. He hadn't won this team over necessarily. Now, granted, he had throughout the offseason being a leader and stuff, but I mean, them seeing on the field, them knowing that he's fully capable, that's something that they didn't really have at the time that they do now. So I think pulling a move like that is a lot more difficult right now. I don't know that I agree with that. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that I agree with it overall. Mattress Matt, appreciate the $10 super chat. Even when we did I formation, we couldn't get push. Something is seriously wrong with our run scheme. We are trying to hit our assigned hole instead of where the open lane truly is. Poor run coaching. Once again, agree with that to an extent, but the play is supposed to go where the play is supposed to go. I mean, and that doesn't mean there's no instincts involved playing the position and no improvising and creating on your own. And so that's why I say I agree, but I don't agree. Sometimes it's like that is not a run that's supposed to be bounced to the outside. So you can say, oh, there was space out there, but the running back's not looking for that space. That's just it's like a guy that's open on the backside of a read, and it's like, oh, that guy was wide open. It's like, that's not where he's looking. He's not supposed to look in that direction, or at least that guy's way further down in the progression that he never is going to work over based off of the amount of time that he has. So it's like it's the same concept where I understand that there's been some frustration with like Jam, and there was one tonight early on. I want to say, was it Jam or was it Daniel? Either way, I thought that was a run where it was like, hey, I think they could have bounced that, and they didn't. So at times it's the running backs, but the offensive line, especially the interior, just, I mean, this group is not working in unison. It's always somebody. And is that a continuity thing? Maybe. I've been a huge fan. I've been pushing the whole, I like the rotation. I think it's beneficial. You're building depth. You're helping 2026 in the process, which is not the primary goal, but I'm just saying it's a nice added benefit as you're doing some of this. But at the same time, it's not working. I mean, the run game and the fact that there was such a massive emphasis on fixing it or making it become more effective during the bye week, and then you practice that for 2 weeks, and then you get the same thing that you've gotten in all these other games. That's probably the most concerning part, because it was something that they really wanted to do better, and they did no better, none. So, interesting. Brandon, appreciate you being here, brother. As always, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. It's become abundantly clear that Danny Lewis is extremely important to the run game. The games he played in, we went over 100. That I'm right there with you, Brandon. I brought that up recently because it was just a kind of an odd coincidence that I noticed that. But as you start thinking about it, it's not a direct correlation. It's not like, oh, if Danny Lewis can get 100% healthy, the run game's going to be fixed. Like, don't expect that. And I know that, of course, you wouldn't, but I do think that he's an important element, because the tight ends and the outside blocking, that is being impacted by not having Danny Lewis on the field. Like Caleb Edwards, I've said this once, I've said it 100 times. He is going to be a really, really good player, but from a physical standpoint, a body, 6'6", 264 pounds. He looks SEC ready, and he looks like he's ready to contribute. But when you watch him as far as sustaining blocks, sticking on guys, you don't see that consistently enough right now. I think that has been part of the problem, and I think you get more consistency with a guy like Danny Lewis, being 100% healthy, especially. But at the same time, it goes way beyond that. So I know I know that's not what you were saying, but just wanted to clarify for everybody else to where that narrative doesn't get started. Like, oh, when Danny Lewis gets back and he's closer to 100%, that's going to be the solution, because it won't be. But great comment. I completely agree. Let's see. Denzel Witherspoon, appreciate the $2 super chat. Ty isn't the problem. Grubb is the problem. I will say the play calling, and we all loved it. Everybody loved, and I said this at the time, it wasn't necessarily with Caden Proctor, even though we also got another Caden Proctor wrinkle that we'll talk about in a second. But at the same time, we love the cute when it's all working. And some of the cute worked tonight, but some of the cute feels unnecessary at times. With that being said, how creative does Ryan Grubb feel like he has to be right now because of the limitations? They can't run the football. There's no consistency in the vertical passing game. The short to intermediate parts, the play action, a lot of what you were doing well early in the season, that's not as effective as it was earlier in the year. So how much is the pressure being put on Ryan Grubb to compensate for that? And that's why you're seeing all this creativity and getting too cute, because I think the cuteness level has steadily increased. And I don't like that, because I feel like there was a pretty good sweet spot. I do feel like at times early in the season, maybe there was still too much of it. But I feel like in recent weeks or recent games, it certainly felt like there was a little bit more, to that. That is, I don't think it's working out well. Wayne S., appreciate the $4.99 super chat. There just aren't many dominant run teams anymore. Kirby says the same about Georgia. Maybe Bama is wasting plays on trying to do what they can't. I have also said this to an extent, and I noticed it, like a lot of Mississippi State fans, and I kind of helped with their coverage some. They got some really good running backs, and they really wanted to be a physical football team that could run the football, and they just haven't been that, and their fans have been extremely frustrated. But it's like when you look at you look at Oklahoma and what we expected their run game to be. You look at Texas, you look at Florida. Georgia had this problem last year. They seem to be figuring it out a little bit more. Now, they went against Mississippi State today. Mississippi State's run defense is atrocious. So, the level of success that they had on the ground, that's a little bit deceiving. But at the same time, they have figured it out a lot more. And that's kind of what I had hoped or envisioned eventually for Alabama this year, was I think they were either 41 or 51 nationally in rushing offense. So nothing crazy. Not completely dominant, but they can run the football, especially when they want to. And that is a huge difference. And like Gunnar Stockton in the passing game, the playmakers at wide receiver, they don't have what Alabama has on that front. But what they do have is an offensive line that when they need to get guys blocked, they need to pick up some stuff on the ground and really try to take pressure off of not only their defense, but their quarterback. They're able to do that. Alabama's doing a good job offensively, at least for the most part, of taking pressure off of the defense. But they're not doing a good enough job from an offensive standpoint, taking enough pressure off of Ty. Ty probably feels right now like he has to do everything. And to a certain extent, because the run game is non-existent, he does. So, and I'm not saying he's not getting any help, but you get what I mean. But yes, there's a lot of offenses right now that just can't run the football. Run stunts are giving people a lot of trouble. I thought the interesting part about this game, and it's almost like Grubb and company didn't see it coming to an extent. Now, I have to go back and confirm this on the film, but just live watch through, it's like the game plan was kind of simple early on. A lot of screens. They knew their offensive line was garbage. They're trying to neutralize Alabama's pass rush. And I think in the second half, to an extent, until Yanze started getting going, that having Michael Van Buren out there, you have to play him differently than Garrett Nussmeier. Nussmeier is a mobile guy, but he's not nearly as mobile as Michael Van Buren. And so I think from a pass rushing standpoint, you have to, there was one time early on where they really tried to get after Van Buren. He steps up and finds a crease, and he's able to take off and get a huge chunk gain. And it might have been on a third down that he did that. But it's like Alabama after that, they started playing him a little bit differently. I felt like, at least in certain situations. But I feel like right now with where LSU is at offensively, we knew they were going to switch some things up. We knew they were going to be more committed to the run game. But offensively, it was throw a lot of screens at Alabama early on, trying to neutralize that pass rush. And then defensively, it was, especially on early downs, we're going to be super aggressive. And I had said all throughout the week, Baker, for the most part, early on in the season, he had been pretty aggressive. As of late, for whatever reason, he had not been nearly as aggressive as he had been. And I just wondered, not having Brian Kelly or being under Brian Kelly's thumb, I'd wondered if maybe you saw that aggressiveness return. Not only did you see it return, you saw him being even more aggressive than probably I've seen him all season. Now, that's playing like you got nothing to lose in some ways, but they were taking some risk and they were getting home and they were causing Ty Simpson a lot of problems. And Alabama's running backs weren't blocking well in pass protection. That was both Daniel Hill and Jam Miller. Ty did not do as well under pressure. So it was a massive problem pretty much across the board. But I just was surprised that they didn't try to do a little bit more to neutralize what LSU was doing, because especially on first down, it's like, hey, let's get them in second long, because they haven't been as effective as they were early in the season in those situations. And they were having a lot of success doing that. And so the fact that they didn't do enough to counter that was frustrating in my opinion. But once again, all of this stuff, I say this every time I say it, it's how I view things when I'm watching live. Sometimes I go back and I watch and I feel a little bit differently, and I'll hop on here and say I was wrong about this or that or whatever after the fact. Mattress Matt, appreciate the $5 super chat. Why ever do traditional handoff? Why can't every run play be a toss or a sweep? What's the need for the predictable traditional run play? I think to an extent, I think it's keeping defenses honest. The problem is that keeping them honest, like early in the season, there was like some level of effectiveness. Jam Miller tonight, he averaged 1.6 yards per carry. He had 1 7-yard carry, and then otherwise he had 7 carries for 6 yards. So he averaged less than a yard per carry outside of that 7-yard carry. That is craziness. Like, that is terrible. That's not the 3 yards we were talking about. That's not even 2.5 yards. That's like somewhat respectable. Okay, you get 2.5 yards. It's about 7.5, 7 or 8 yards on second down. It's like if they were running the football, it's second 10, it's second 11, it's second 9 at best. So I don't know. As far as committing to the run game, I understand the purpose, but at a certain point, and I think Ryan Grubb is starting to understand this in some of these games, you're just not getting anything out of it, so you just can't stay committed to it. Yeah, you can't just waste the play. If it's getting 2 yards, 3 yards, and then you're popping, okay, a 4 every once in a while, a 5, maybe you get a -1 that hurts the average, but you're getting it a little bit more consistently. They're not getting any of that. And so it's frustrating to watch. I don't know what else to say. And I said I was going to be a lot more positive than this. Anybody that says, Clint, you're being too negative, maybe tonight you're on to something. Because I am, as I'm getting, starting to think about a lot of this, I'm a little bit more frustrated than I'm leading on. Because it's just, I had a lot of high expectations for getting some of this turned around. It wasn't going to be coming out of the bye week and all of a sudden all these problems are fixed. And now they're definitely a national championship contender. But it just was, I was really hoping to see some progress. And you saw the hit vertical shot, and maybe we can call that some progress. But with the regression in some other areas, it's like, I don't feel like you've just added that on top. In some ways, I just feel like you added the occasional deep shot, taken several a game, but it's at what expense? And I'm not saying it's because of that, but at what expense? It's that the short to intermediate part, the things that Ty was doing really well early in the season, he's not being as effective at it. So, anyways, Denzel Witherspoon, appreciate the $5 super chat. Every time I see Germ in the backfield, it's a 75% chance it's a dead play. Why isn't Grubb making adjustments? We got blitzed all day and didn't adjust. I will say that is a fair point about Jeremy Bernard. And I would say, I would actually have to go back and look, but 75 might be accurate. The 25% might be because Germ's just making a play when a play really wasn't there. I understand. I love the versatility that he brings to the table and the fact that he can do that. I feel like they're not doing enough to it's like he's featured too much in those situations, and the defense is keying in on it. You don't want to give the defense the ability to in on what you're doing. So if they know Germ's in the backfield, Germ's probably getting the football in some form or fashion, and maybe that's a handoff and then he ends up throwing it. Maybe it's you've seen them do 1,000 things with it. Germ is going to be a core piece of this play. Do something off of that then, make him a decoy. And maybe, I mean, they are doing that to an extent, but not nearly enough in my opinion. So I get the frustration there. D Kilgo, appreciate the $5 super chat. Get Jam Miller out of the starting rotation. Daniel Hill needs to have the overwhelming majority of carries. This loyalty to upperclassmen has to stop. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jam Miller far and away had the best offseason out of anybody. And it didn't mean that you stay committed to him all year, but the broken collarbone set him back. He gets back and he's actually doing pretty well. They're being pretty productive on the ground and they're playing pretty good teams while they're doing it. And then the concussion happens. And I don't know if, I mean, it seems like he's been a little bit more timid, but I don't want to blame it on that. I just think that I just think the run game as a whole, I mean, obviously Daniel Hill's not doing that much better, but I mean, he is doing somewhat better. And he's just a guy that's like, the thing about Daniel Hill being 244 pounds, if he gets hit at the line of scrimmage, a lot of times he's going to carry guys for 2 or 3 yards. So kind of what you were hoping to get, or what you were getting early in the season, not what you're hoping to get, but you're at least getting that, continuing to get that out of Daniel Hill. You're no longer getting that consistently from Jam Miller. So I understand what you're saying. And if Jam Miller's going to struggle some in pass protection like he did, but I don't think they're going off of Jam. I really don't. I think it's going to continue to be Daniel Hill and Jam Miller both, and you're probably going to see a pretty equal amount like you did tonight. Let's see. We'll get to some of these other comments. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and get with what EG said from DeBoer's post-game press conference. She said DeBoer opens with saying essentially a win is a win, but not satisfied with how they played at times. I mean, that's how I think pretty much everybody feels. So, yeah, that makes sense. Our crowd comes and helps get false starts, praises fans. That's an excellent point. Guys, I mean, my wife was at the game. She has season tickets. She loves going. She's super passionate about it. And she said, first quarter was a little bit slow because I always ask her about crowd energy. Even when I'm at the game, being in the press box, I can't feel it to the extent that someone's keying out in the stands. And she said, started off a little bit slow, but it really started to pick up. But what you can tell is that LSU offense, especially that true freshman left tackle, he was rattled by the environment. That is exactly what you're supposed to do. That's you doing your contributions. So anybody who was at the game and they were loud and causing ruckus and problems, great on you, because you did impact the game. You are constantly helping LSU's offense put itself in bad situations, 1st and 15 or, whatever. And so that matters. So definitely appreciate y'all for that, because that was absolutely huge. It said that DeBoer had a lot of praise for Lottie. Let's talk about Lottie. I said I was going to do that. One of the things that I said, I think it was on Monday, was that I felt like down the stretch, I really believed that Lottie's role was going to continue to evolve. And I really liked his impact, his potential impact down the stretch. Jeremy is a guy who is like, he's going to get his touches each and every week. This offense, at least for a majority of the season, it was designed in a way where it was like, okay, this week, this guy's leading the charge in the passing game. This week is this guy. This week is this guy. I mean, against South Carolina, it was Daniel Hill. Lottie obviously wasn't available against South Carolina, but his last 2 games, he had got 6 targets in each of those, and he felt like a pretty consistent piece. There, he was trending in that direction before the injury. So that's one of the things that I wanted to keep an eye on. And in the first half, I know he had 5 targets. Don't think he saw nearly the same usage in the second half. Let me find him. So he had 7 targets. So he led the team in targets. He had 1 more than Jeremy Bernard. Now, yeah, and he had a carry. Bernard and him both had a carry. So he actually ended up with 5 total touches, had 8 opportunities, 7 targets, and 1 carry. And he turned that into 67 yards and then 2 yards on the ground. So 69 total yards. Once again, nothing crazy, but he's making plays. Like anybody, he should have got stopped. He broke that tackle. He turned it into a solid gain. I think it was like a second one or a third one after that. The guy's tough to bring down. He's extremely reliable as far as catching the football. He runs extremely good routes. And just Alabama, it feels like things are trending where it's kind of become like, not saying that he's number 2, even though in some ways I guess you could view him as the number 2. I don't want to like anybody to run with that and like use it as a way to take shots at Ryan, but just Ryan's like skill set, he's going to see high volume at times, but Lottie is like the really reliable underneath, create yardage after the catch, is physical, all these different things. So you can kind of more consistently use him in those types of roles. And so I think that their usage on a week-to-week basis is going to be a lot more consistent. So Germ has absolutely been that guy all year. I think Lottie is becoming the second option in that sense. And I think to an extent, Josh Cuevas is becoming one of those guys as well. Because he had 4 catches for 58 yards on 4 targets, and he also had 1 carry for 7 yards. So 65 total yards on 5 touches. And he's consistently getting like 3, 4, 5, 6 targets pretty much each and every week. He's become a big part of the offense. His ability to create yardage after the catch as a tight end, I think that's been pretty big. He's not like a dynamic player, but he's sneaky, and he can do some stuff as far as breaking some tackles and creating some opportunities. Let's see. Russ, Josh Pate says it all the time. DeBoer just always plays these kind of games. If you look back at the 2023 Washington schedule, there are a ton of close games against average to bad teams. Sure, that's fine, but in some ways it's like that becoming the expectation. Like you lost a game against Florida State. If you end up dropping another game that you're not supposed to, maybe it's against Oklahoma, which if you did, I don't think anybody would be floored by that because Oklahoma is viewed as a really good football team. They're really starting to come on strong with John Mateer getting healthy, and their defense is really good. But, if you drop one against Auburn, it's like, you'll be a 2-loss team. Yeah, you'll probably still be in the playoff conversation, even though once again be 2 teams that you lose to with poor records. That's not going to be a good look as far as the conversation, but I guess at least it's not 3. But, it's at a certain point, why does it have to be that? Why does it have to be a close game? Why can't you just go ahead and put your foot on somebody's throat and push down a little bit, create, 17-point lead, 20-point lead, 21-point lead, and then you can start, I'm not saying that they purposefully call the dogs off, but it does feel like when they have a lead or they feel pretty in control, things get weird, and just how they're calling things, like that's where the cuteness starts to come into play. So it's like, is that what's causing the cuteness, or is it that they feel like they have to do that? Like, these are questions that we're all asking, but there's no doubt when you look historically at Kalen DeBoer, he plays a lot of close games, and he figures out ways to win, and he figured out a way to win in this one, but it's not looking how a lot of us had hoped. And when you see this against an LSU team that's got, ended up benching their quarterback, they fired their coach. Very talented team, but very, very bad on the offensive line. You look at that and you say, okay, if you're struggling like this consistently with these types of teams, because South Carolina has some really good players too, but their offensive line's terrible. They fired their offensive coordinator. Like, what are you going to do when you play Ohio State or Indiana or, Texas A&M, who looked really good today? Like, are you going to be able to hold up if this is how you're playing pretty much all these teams? And granted, they do a good job when the opponent, they play to the level of their competition, but I don't know. It's frustrating. Let's talk a little bit about someone else that was really good. And I want to go ahead and get his stats. Let's see. And that's Yanze Pierre. So he only had 2 tackles, but both of those were sacks. And he also had that, it was a strip sack on one of those. I said after his first sack, he now has 5 on the season. Last year, Alabama's sack leader was Jahad Campbell with 5. So in 9 games, Yanze Pierre has matched that total and now exceeded that total. He now has more sacks than any player that Alabama had last year in 2024. Not only that, he started he did not start the first 4 games of the season. So yes, he was playing a lot of snaps and he was getting some opportunities, but he went like the first 4 games where he was getting not a lot of pass rushing opportunities because, against Florida State, they only threw the football 14 times in that game. Tommy Castellanos, ULM, he played and got some snaps, but you saw a lot of Quay Russaw. You got some other guys in at the end of that game, didn't get as many snaps in that game. Wisconsin, kind of a blowout, similar situation. Georgia, obviously, once Quay went out, that role really started to increase, and you saw him start to be the guy at that position. But he has turned into an absolute terror, and we knew that he was going to have success against LSU. So, this game is not mind-blowing. A 2-sack game against a true freshman left tackle, I don't think we should be, handing the guy any, postseason awards or All-American statuses based off of this one performance. But this is him stacking performances like this and really starting to come on strong. And not only that, but I feel like Noah Carter's starting to make more plays. Justin Hill, I'm still waiting on him. He's flashing. I think he does some really good things. But I feel like Noah Carter right now is probably playing a little bit better football, and Alabama needs it. I mean, he could potentially be back for Oklahoma. We'll have to wait and see. I do think that's going to be a massive boost for Alabama's defense. Don't think he's going to overtake Yanze at all as far as being the starter, but having that option, a really strong, trusted rotational piece that you can also put on the field along with Yanze Pierre at times, I think that will be absolutely huge for Alabama's defense. Overall, the defense is playing pretty good football. And it's not perfect once again, but the whole bend but don't break, they let them get into the red zone multiple trips. One of them was offense related, but a couple of times they let them drive down the length of the field, have some success, but they're holding them to field goals, or they're forcing turnovers. They're forcing fumbles, strip sacks. Had a chance, Bray Hubbard had a chance at an interception. They had a chance at a couple of more turnovers that they didn't get, but they did get. How many did they finish with? Was it 2 or 3? So I guess it was just 2. So turnovers, 2. But they had a chance at multiple more. Like they're getting the football out. They're making things difficult. You'd love to see that. But I think those pass rushers are doing some good things. Want to give LT Overton a ton of credit. Finished his sack. That's one of those situations where we all offseason we were saying, you just got to learn to finish. And then there were plays at the beginning of the season where you saw him be disruptive again, but couldn't quite finish. Well, tonight, it almost looked like he wasn't going to finish, but he figured out a way to get it done. Really impressed with him and what I saw from him tonight. The defense overall playing good football. Dijon Lee, I thought his length and his size and just on a couple of plays, obviously, they went vertical to Trades Green, the 6'7", 240-pound hybrid tight end wide receiver. And, Dijon was in good position to get up there and contest the catch. And Trades just didn't play a good game at all. Like he has been a guy they have featured. I think he's got NFL talent. He's a unicorn as a pass catcher, but Alabama's defense did a really good job of limiting him. And then I think just the moment at times it seemed too big. So that was important for Alabama because I thought if they don't have success running the football, which they didn't outside of that one explosive run, Alabama's defense did a pretty good job of stopping LSU's run game. And Kalen DeBoer talked about that even going into like halftime. He's like, hey, it starts with continuing to stop the run. And so even though LSU has not been a great rushing offense, you don't want to give them the ability to attack you in multiple ways. So go ahead and take away the run game, maintain that. That was something that I had said was really important. And then, kind of take it from there. And they did that. But then, let's see. So, Barry had the 37-yard, but he averaged 5.5 yards per carry. But outside of that 37 yards, that's 29 yards on 11 carries outside of that 37-yard gain. So, give the defense credit. I think overall they're playing really good football. I thought Justin Jefferson played pretty well. Deontay Lawson seemed to play pretty well. But Dijon, he's definitely a guy who's coming on strong, no doubt about it. Let's get more of these super chats. Wayne S., appreciate the $1.99 super chat. Penalties way down, discipline much improved. Great point, and something that, I'm ashamed to say I'm not 100% sure I would have brought that up, and I should have. because that is very, very important. They had 2 penalties this entire game. LSU had 10. That's to be expected with LSU being the road team. But Alabama overall, like a huge problem under Kalen DeBoer, really everywhere he's been for the most part, they've had problems with penalties. And in a lot of these football games early on, they were the more penalized team of the 2 teams. So the fact that they're starting to get that under control and actually make that a strength is really helping them compensate for some of these other issues. Like when the other offense is constantly shooting themselves in the foot and putting themselves in bad situations, to an extent that compensates for your offense, not being able to do what it needs to do. So Wayne, that's a great point. Definitely something that needed to be brought up. Appreciate you saying that. Denzel Witherspoon, appreciate the $2 super chat. Do you know why Grubb isn't making adjustments? I feel like he is. I wouldn't say that he's not making any adjustments. I just think that right now, what is Alabama doing well offensively? And I would say consistently, because they're having moments, but even what they were really doing consistently well early in the season, they're not doing it to that same extent now, which was to be expected. We knew that the run game, if you can't get that going a little bit more, the vertical passing game, adding more wrinkles and elements to your offense, defenses are going to start playing you in a way where they can take away some of that stuff. They were crowding the line of scrimmage in a lot of situations, and they were being super aggressive, whether it be, as run blitz on early downs, whether it be you're trying to go play action on early downs, and they're sending a lot of pressure as it is, applying pressure on top. They just, right now they were playing Alabama's offense in a way where they're like, you might get one honest vertical, but we don't think you're going to come out here and consistently do it. So we'll take the one touchdown that we might give up if we can consistently get you off the field, which other defenses haven't been able to do. Or it's, we don't really have to respect your run game a whole lot like we're going to, because we know you're going to stay committed to it. But as far as like that being this huge point of contention and us thinking we're going to have to they're going to commit enough bodies to stop the run, but they don't feel like they have to add in bodies to compensate for a good, effective rushing offense, if that makes sense. Like that's the way defenses, in my opinion, are playing Alabama. And it's like, if you can just be a little bit consistent and call and give defenses trouble, where it's like, hey, if you want to give like respectable numbers and not really commit a whole lot, we're going to make you pay for that. They're just not doing that consistently enough. So don't know that I necessarily answer your question. I feel like he's trying to make adjustments, but there's not a whole lot that he can adjust to, I guess is my point, because not a whole lot is working. Let's see. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get down here near the bottom. I'm sure I've missed a ton. Let's see. The Scuba Geek says O-line's still a problem. Poorly thrown passes, drop passes, and the run game is non-existent. Yeah, I agree with that. The offensive line is a problem. It's just, and this is one of those situations where you watch it live and you're like, yeah, it looks a certain way. They're outside of me unfairly grouping Jaden Roberts' performance against South Carolina in with the other interior guys. It's been pretty rare this season, which is kind of out of the norm, where it looks bad live, and then you go back and watch and you're like, oh no, actually the offensive line wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was. I always feel like I do that once or twice a year. I've not done that once this year, other than just get wrong with Jaden Roberts and unfairly grouping him. I feel like every time I thought the offensive line had played bad and gone back to watch them, it's because they had played really bad. So yeah, that's I really don't. We got to start having some conversations, guys, because it's not getting fixed, and I don't know whose fault it is. Is it players not executing? Is it coaching staff and Coach Cap not coaching these guys up enough? Is it? I don't know, but it's not working. And back when the offense was, the passing game with Ty Simpson, he's playing like Superman and he's compensating and things are working. And I say working from a points perspective, wasn't a whole lot different than it was tonight, but it was more ball control, more consistently moving the football down the field. You just didn't see them converting enough down in the red area, at times in some of these games. Now, the product just is not consistent at all. and it's too many 3-and-outs. It's too much as far as just not being able to consistently attack defenses in any sort of effective manner. And so we got to start having some conversations, despite the fact they keep winning football games. Because if you sit on this and just say, well, they're winning, so how much? I'm sure they'll try to fix some of this, but how much do they really have to address? You're going to end up losing in a moment that you don't want to lose, and their season's going to be over, and then you're going to be left wondering why in the world we let it get to this point. Buck, we need more quick passes. Yeah, I feel like early in the season they were really snapping and getting the football out, to the perimeter quite a bit. You're not seeing that as much now. They're being super aggressive because you're not doing as much as far as hitting them vertically. But I don't know. It's been frustrating. I get everybody's frustration because I'm right there with you. And there's some people that's probably watching this show and been like, Alabama just got a win over LSU, second year in a row, 11-point win. You covered the spread. Like, really? Can we not just celebrate that? I'm always going to be real about what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing right now, I give them credit for figuring out ways to win. And if you could guarantee me that will be this team's identity every step of the way, no matter who lines up across from them and what that team is capable of doing, then I would feel pretty good about it. Where the concerns come in is that they're going to play somebody that's not limited by their offensive line, or they're not limited by their pass rush. Their defensive front is just, it's okay. It's not great. LSU has a great secondary, and that secondary did cause some problems. There's no doubt about it. And they have great skill players on offense. But from a play calling perspective this year, they've been limited, can't run the football. Their offensive line can't keep their quarterback protected. Up front, they're okay. They're pretty good. They're not great as far as defensively. If you could guarantee those types of opponents the rest of the way, then winning this way, I would feel pretty good about it. But you're going to come across some teams that they got big offensive lines that can move you off. They can run the football consistently, and they can play the passing game off of that. And they got weapons, and they can stop the run well, and they can get after your quarterback. And they got a secondary that can at least, hold up or, stick with your pass catchers. And it's like, okay, how good are we feeling in those games? Because what you're doing is you're saying a team that doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses or glaring weaknesses, you're asking Alabama, who has a lot of multiple weaknesses right now, to figure out a way to win that game. And that's fun. David beats Goliath every once in a while. That absolutely happens. So to say it's impossible, that would be foolish. But feeling great about it going in, because this team is capable. Like it should be better in certain facets, as far as the passing game, the vertical pass game, and the run game. You've got talent up front. You've got talented running backs. You've got guys that can burn and win downfield. You got a quarterback that's a former 5-star that's, seeing everything he needs to see. But for whatever reason, they have these deficiencies that's going to get them beat. I don't want to ignore that. All right, that's probably gonna just about do it. Let me check and make sure we don't have any more super chats. And I guess I can. Let's see. So yeah, I will address this really quickly. So GSP Scott, he says Lotzier Brooks has got to learn to sell the PI call against him too. Sell that to get the call when he was interfered with. He was interfered with, there's no doubt. That's being a true freshman, but that's one of those things where the ref, it was pretty clear. It was pretty clear live. So, yeah, could he do a better job of selling it? Sure. But I don't know that I necessarily put that on him. That's more so on the ref. You got to make that call, in my opinion. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it. You guys have been great. My voice is starting to go every time I get on here myself. Start to lose my voice a little bit. I would love, we're still working on the phone thing. I know I say that every single week, but we just got to get some pieces of equipment and some software that we're trying to get somebody in to help me do that. Because if they could screen the calls and everything, I would love to get you guys on. I'd love to get Brandon calling back in. I think he just does great work. And I think so many of you guys do. Just the comments that y'all leave. It's great as far as steering me in the right directions. And, it's like with Wayne talking about the penalties being weighed down. Like all of you guys bring so much to this conversation, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. We're trying to build this thing, and it's just it's a process. And so just like Alabama, we're putting our one foot in front of the other, trying to improve each and every week. But what drives this entire thing is y'all's participation. And because you guys do such a fantastic job, every time that I get on here live, we're trying to figure out ways where I can go live more and I can get more of your because when I do those premieres, you guys can all interact with each other, but I would love to be able to pull y'all's comments up and give y'all credit for what you're saying. And, because we're a family here and we just appreciate you guys so much for being here. If you haven't already, and we haven't, obviously, I'm going to take this and I'm going to upload it over on the podcast side of things, but go to wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, and search Cover Crimson Podcast Network and click that follow button. And that would help us so much. We're trying to grow that over there. It is absolutely growing. A lot of you guys have been listening, and we thank y'all so much. But we're trying to get this to a point where we can get all of the tools that we need to give you guys the absolute biggest and best product that you guys all deserve. And so that would certainly help us. And then, another thing about that side of things, the mailbags that I've been doing weekly or started doing weekly on the YouTube channel, I'm still going to be doing the one that I do on here, but I'm also going to be doing a second one that will be uploaded in podcast form every single week. So there'll be 2 mailbags. Both of them will be on the podcast side. Only one of them will be over here. So that's to give everybody a little bit more of an incentive to hop on over there and follow that. That would certainly help us a lot. And these are all, just the questions that y'all give each and every week. Fantastic. Don't stop. It's great stuff. We just appreciate you guys so much. And also, it's November. You got Thanksgiving coming up. Get on over to roback.com. Use the promo code Crimson20 to get 20% off your order. Like I do every day. Got my Roback on. No, EG does the same. I saw her in something else yesterday. No, was it yesterday or the day before? But I feel like she's always getting new pieces of gear from over there too. We both love it. It's great stuff. So get on over to roback.com and use that promo code. That helps us keep the lights on as well. And you're also getting a fantastic product that I can 100% tell you that I 1,000% believe in. And I have not, I've sold things in my life that I didn't believe in. It's not fun. I 100% believe in Roback. I think is it's the best thing from a wearing standpoint that I've ever owned. And it's not close. So appreciate all you guys for being here. This was a great crowd tonight. Appreciate the participation. And, we will talk to you guys as soon as we possibly can, which is probably going to be tomorrow night. We're probably going to go live again. That's the plan. I think it's going to be at 8 p.m. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be able to watch the film, and we're going to be able to talk about this a lot more in depth. So thanks for being here, guys, and we will talk to you guys soon.